Okay, hey everybody, I'm Layla, gratefully recovering compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet. I write them down. I call them into my sponsor. I don't eat in between those meals no matter what. And my abstinence date is July 1st, 2021. Hey everybody, man, it's good to see some familiar faces, some old friends, some new friends, some fresh friends, and it's good to be back to this meeting. All right, so I'm sitting in a meeting a few years ago before I knew anything about Gray Sheet. It's a 12-step meeting. And I'm starting to hear these 12 steps read out loud. And I start to hear about something called emotional sobriety. And I'm hearing people share about family dysfunction and chaos and the turmoil and the anxiety that comes with it. And I'm thinking, do I identify with any of this crap? Is the 12 steps going to mess me up? I'm thinking, has this stuff really changed people's lives? And I got roped in after coffee with a girlfriend who was like, oh, just come to a meeting. I don't know if it's for you. I don't even know if you have any dysfunction. You just listen and take what you like and leave the rest. Come back if you feel like it's for you. So I got sucked in to the 12 steps over a cup of coffee and a hike and come to a meeting if you feel like it. So I'm going to share tonight a little bit of just my experience, strength, and hope around Gray Sheet. Like I shared, my abstinence date is July 1st, 2021. So I don't know what that is, year and 8 months, something, 9 months, I don't know. But I have had a lot of no matter what moments in my initial experience. So I remember what happened to me is I had gone through the 12 steps. I had worked other programs of recovery and COVID happened. And so I couldn't go to these in-person meetings anymore. And I heard about a group that was meeting, and it was where I could go physically on Friday nights and hear the 12 steps read. I could hear the promises read. And there was all different flavors of recovery. And I remember hearing this gentleman share, focus on your primary area of recovery. And at the time I had over 2 or 3 years sobriety and abstinence and other programs. And I'd been making calls. I had been really valuing connection with people who put the recovery first in other programs. But my food was a complete shit show. It was a hot mess. I was a hot mess in my mind. And I was like, this guy really challenged the group. I remember sitting there and hit me like a ton of bricks, focus on one area of recovery where you are powerless. And I was sitting there and I'm thinking, I can get these other programs where I feel like I want to be well, and I've surrendered and I've worked the steps with a sponsor. But my food was insane. My brain around food was insane. And I can't remember a day in my life. I just can't remember a day in my life where I wasn't weird around food, where I wasn't overthinking, where I wasn't having this squirrely brain. I think we call it obsession around food. I can't remember a day in my life, especially my adult life, where I started making more money and started getting crazier around food because I could buy whatever I wanted and sneak around and try to get those smells out of my car and try to get rid of the trash really quick, right? So I had been on lots of other programs just prior to me even finding Gray Sheet. I had tried this program that was no flour, no sugar, 3 weighed and measured meals, nothing in between those meals, and a lot of language that sounded familiar to what I hear, but I wasn't seeing long-term abstinence. There was no accountability, and I lost a certain amount of weight, couldn't keep it off, whatever. Still had the insanity. But I knew I desperately wanted change. I wanted change. I didn't want to be crazy around the food anymore. Just didn't want to be crazy around the food.
Layla, you have 10 more minutes.
Thank you. So here's this challenge. It's on a Friday night. I go because I want to put my recovery first. I want to be well. Hearing these 12 steps, and I'm trying to think, I'm like, why am I even here? I'm here because meeting makers make it. I'm here because meetings are medicine. I'm here because I need connection. And here's a bunch of recovering addicts from different flavors of addiction, but they're showing up for their recovery. But I'd hear people say, oh, I'm working on my food. And I'm like, what does that even mean? So anyway, cried out to God, and I said, God, I need a food program that I can eat a lot of food and still lose weight and be sane. And some of you guys heard this story before, and it just brings me joy to share it. I cried out to God. I binged on healthy food. It was so disgusting. I'm having this like food drunk moment, 3 or 4 in the morning. And I'm like, God, please, you're huge. I don't know how you're going to get a message to me through the universe, through something. Please speak to my crazy brain, even though I'm drunk on food and feel crazy. It's like, oh, there's got to be an answer. And I got led to this Instagram page called Fat Girl Experiencing Thin. And this little voice whispered to me and said, follow her hashtags. And you know what? I did. I followed her hashtags. And suddenly this light, like a highlighter, yellow highlighter, was the word gray sheet, gray sheet, gray sheet. I'm looking at her food pictures and I'm like, that looks good. Whatever. Gray sheet. So I looked GreySheet.org and I just read the whole website. I just scoured every ounce in the website. And then I sent an email. I was like something, out West California. Thank you for whoever's out there. And I made a call. I sent an email. I'm like, how do I get on a meeting? What's the food plan? Like, I don't even care. Just like, tell me, help me, please. And the person who called me back was trying to talk me out of it. She's like, are you sure? You sure you don't need OA? And I was like, I tried that before. It didn't work. No one was thin. Anyway, I had a couple false starts in the first, few weeks. I remember being on meetings. You guys, my first few meetings, I just cried. I like bawled my face off because I'm hearing these qualifications. And I was like, it sounds like me, and it made me want to throw up. Hearing people's experience, strength, and hope, I just wept because I was coming out of the food, right? And I didn't know if I could do it, but I was like, I'm going to try one meal at a time. And I made calls and I was like, it sounds like a plan that actually works for people. And I'll never forget this beautiful soul who just introduced the food plan to me. She was like a temporary sponsor for, I think it was, I don't know, maybe a month, till I had found a more permanent one. And I've never seen her on a meeting. I try to remember what her voice sounded like. She was just amazing, from Boston, I think. I don't know. And she just patiently was like, do you understand? I think it was probably a couple months in before I actually received a physical gray sheet in my hand, but I still have my original sheet that I wrote down the food plan. And I'm peeking at my notes here. Yeah, so that's my experience. My experience was I had tried 12 steps. I knew there was power in it. Somehow, supernaturally, I had really seen breakthrough in other areas of recovery. And the food was like the last stop. for me, but it was the last stop that led to an opening of a higher level of recovery in my mind, in my body, and in my spirit. So I'm going to get.
Now have 5 minutes, and I'll give you a heads up in 4. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So we got 5 minutes left. So the strength, my superpower, and people that don't know my recovery world, but they know me and they've watched me be transformed. I just literally drove back from my hometown in New York the last less than 24 hours. It's been a long car ride, but I'm abstinent no matter what, is to keep it simple. To keep it freaking simple. Whether it's packing food, whether it's having a conversation around food, and to just stay in the day, one day at a time. That's probably one of the best things that set me free, is to plan one day of food at a time. So the hope, and I just want to not miss the timing to share my no matter what's with you guys, because I haven't seen some of you since. Okay, so I had this crash and burn after it was I had 9 months, I think, of abstinence, and I was doing a major move, my home, my whole living, my peace palace was being disrupted. I had a major breakup. I was dating a guy I thought I was going to marry. And my sponsor went into a coma. Oh my gosh. Some of you on here, beautiful souls, helped me get through that. You know who you are. That it was so painful. I literally, all I could do was weigh and measure my food and cry and walk and cry, and somehow I kept my job. I also met the man that I married in my abstinence, that I went on a honeymoon, that I traveled to Hawaii, and we just overcame so many wild things. Had a completely abstinent wedding, didn't care at all, because my recovery comes first. About what people said about having stuff we don't eat. We had the time of our lives. We danced our pants off. That sounded weird. Anyway, I've traveled across country. I've lost just beautiful family members that have died, and keeping my food clean and putting my recovery first has helped me live a life of peace. I now have an interesting woman in my life who is the biological mother of my 2 children that I now get the joy of mothering. They're 6 and 9-year-old boys, who are extremely gifted. And she has a knack for tempting me to leave my serenity. I'm not sure how I make it through some days where I receive accusations that I cannot believe would come out of an adult's mouth, but I don't eat over it, no matter what. I don't eat my feelings today, no matter what. I can stay present with the kids that God has entrusted me with to mold and make and to teach and to teach and to teach. We just took these kids on a massive road trip for the last 8 days. What did I do? I agreed to qualify within a few hours of returning. What? Because it's so important to me. This is so important. GreySheet has saved my life. It's given me the gift of peace around food that we don't eat. Kids, my goodness, the smells that came through foods in that vehicle that we just traveled in, tight-knit quarters, that I don't have obsession around it, because I make calls, I stay abstinent, I plan my food, I protect it, and I don't eat no matter what. So I just want to end by reading the promises, because it's what keeps me motivated to keep working recovery and to stay abstinent no matter what.
You
So,
you do have 60 more seconds. So whatever you thanks.
okay. 1, if we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. 2, we're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. 3, we will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. 4, we will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. 5, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. 6, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. 7, we will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. 8, self-seeking will slip away. 9, our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. 10, fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. 11, we'll intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. And 12, we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. With that, I thank you for letting me share.